Good afternoon, dear students. So today we are going to discuss about a beautiful poem. Okay, so before getting into the poem, so students, in our life we always face choices. Sometimes we must decide between two paths, like which subject to study, which career to choose, or which decision is right for us. So these choices shape our future. So the poem today we are going to discuss is The Road Not Taken, which beautifully tells us how every decision in life is important. The poet uses the image of two roads in a forest to explain the idea of making choices in life. Through this poem, we learn that every choice we make can change our life, and sometimes we must choose our own path even if it is different from others. So now let us now explore this beautiful poem and understand its deeper meaning. So before getting into the poem, we will just go a brief introduction to the poem. So Road Not Taken is one of the most famous poem written by Robert Frost. It was published in 1916 in his poetry collection Mountain Interval. The poem talks about choices in life. The poet describes a situation where he stands in a forest and sees two roads. He has to choose one road to travel. Since he cannot travel both the roads, he must make a decision. These two roads represent different choices or the opportunities in our life. So the poem teaches that there are three main points that the poem teaches. So every decision is important. Once a decision is made, we cannot go back and change some of the choices. And also our choices shape our future. So these are the three important points that the poem represents. Now we will go a little brief explanation about the author. Robert Frost is one of the most famous American poets of the 20th century. He was born on March 26, 1874 in San Francisco. He is known for his writing poems about nature, rural life, and human emotions. His poems often use simple language but has a deeper meanings. Some of his famous poems include The Road Not Taken, The Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, The Fire and Ice. Robert Frost's poems often teach us important lessons about life, choices, and nature. So this is the brief explanation or the brief introduction about the author. So now we will go with the stanza-wise explanation of the poem. So I will split the stanza. So we will go with the first stanza and I will give the explanation and the literal meaning what the poet is conveying through the stanza. So the first stanza. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler long I stood and looked down as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. So this is the first stanza. As in the first stanza itself, we will get a little bit understanding about what the poet is conveying through the stanza. So I will explain it. Here the poet describes a forest during autumn where the leaves have turned yellow. So this is happening in the autumn season. Like in the first stanza itself, the first line itself is saying that two roads diverged in a yellow wood. So it represents that the season that is going on is autumn. Okay, and also he has clearly mentioned the leaves have turned yellow. He came to a point where two roads separate in different directions. So as he was traveling, he came to a point where there was two roads which were diverted into two different directions. The poet feels sorry because he cannot travel both the roads since he is the only one person. He must choose only one path. So he stands there for a bit because he was like a little bit confused which road he should choose. So he stands for a long time and he was thinking very carefully to choose which road. He looks down one road as far as possible until it bends and disappears into the bushes. So, the literal meaning of the stanza represents a moment of decision in life. So, here the poet were confused to choose which road. So, he was thinking carefully. So, at the same time, this is the literal meaning that we have been in a position where we need to take a very important decision in our life. Just like the poet choosing a road, we also face situation where we must choose between different options. Okay, so this is the explanation or the literal meaning of the first stanza. Now we will go with the second stanza. Then took the other as just as fair and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted way. Though as far that the passing day, he had warned them really about the same. So this is the second stanza. So in the second stanza, the poet decides to take the other road. So in the first stanza, he was confused to choose which road. In the second stanza, he has chosen a decision that he will choose the other road like which was just as beautiful and it appears to be grassy and it is well and which is less used by the travelers, which makes him think it might be a better choice. However, after observing carefully, he realizes that both roads are actually used almost equally. They are not very different. So in the first, he were little bit confused which road he should choose, and also he has choose the road which is less traveled. But after choosing that also, he was deeply analyzing or deeply carefully observing which roads that both the roads are actually used almost equally. So they are not that much very different. So the literal meaning of this stanza shows that sometimes choices in life look different at first, but in reality they may be quite similar. Still, we must make a decision. So this is the literal meaning of this stanza. Even in our life also, we must we will have an opinion that if I choose this option, it will be good. But after in reality, both the options might be a little bit similar. The choosing is only the difference that we are facing. So this is the literal meaning of the second stanza. Now we will go with the third stanza. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way. I doubted if I should ever come back. So this is the third stanza. So what is the third stanza saying? The poet says that both roads were covered with fresh leaves, meaning nobody had walked on them recently. Okay, so he has cleanly observed both the roads, and he had made a conclusion that both roads were covered with fresh leaves. That means nobody had traveled them, nobody have used that road in a recent time. So he himself tells that he will take the first road another day. So inside his mind he is saying that now I have chosen the road which is less traveled. Afterwards I will choose the first road in some another day. However, he also realizes something is important in life. One path often leads to another, and once we choose a direction, we rarely get the chance to come back and try the other option. So he also realizes that once we have made a decision, it cannot be changed. Similarly, the poet is also saying the same thing. One path often leads to another, and once we have choose a direction, we rarely get the chance to come back and try the other option. Okay, so this was the explanation of the third stanza. What is the literal meaning of the third stanza? This stanza teaches us that some decisions in life are permanent. Once we choose a path, it becomes difficult to return and choose differently. Similarly, whatever the decision we are taking, we must think once, twice, and thrice. So that means some decisions are not, we cannot change, we cannot come back and choose different option. Once if it is, we have made the decision, it is fixed. Okay, so this is the literal meaning of the third stanza. Now the fourth stanza. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. So this is the fourth stanza and the explanation of the fourth stanza. So this is the final stanza. So here the poet imagined himself in the future, remembering this moment. So he is imagining in the future that the decision that he have chosen, that he has chosen the road which is less traveled. So he is remembering that particular moment. He says that he will look back and say that he chose the road less traveled by, and he believes that this choice made a difference in his life. The word sigh here in the stanza itself, there is a word sigh, can show different emotions such as regret, relief, and reflection. So it is a sigh is a word which shows different emotions, like sometimes it may be regret that the poet has chosen the wrong way, or a relief that yeah, at least I have chosen a better option, or the reflection, yeah, so I took this, so next time when I am making a decision, I should think more. So the word sigh represent all these literal meaning. What is the literal meaning of the poem, fourth stanza? The poet reflects on one decision can influence the entire course of life. Even one particular decision that we have chosen, it can influence the entire course of our life. So this is the stanza-wise explanation of the poem The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. So now we will discuss about the themes of the poem. So the first theme of the poem is choices in life. So it is very clear that the poem shows that the life is full of choices and every decision we make shapes our future. Even the poet was also standing in a position where to which road to be chosen. So that is like he is having a choices, like I should take the first one or the second one. So that is the central theme, like choices in life. Next is the individuality. The poet chooses a road less traveled, which represents choosing a unique path in life. So what the poet has chosen here, he has chosen the road which is less traveled by the people. So that means that he is traveling in a unique way. He has his own ideas and perspective. So that represents a unique path in his life. Then is the irreversibility of decision. Once we make a decision, it is very often difficult to go back and change it. Once, when even in our career or in our education or in our studies, anything, once we have made a decision and we have started approaching to that, it is very difficult to come back again and change it. Once the decision is made, it is fixed. So this is the irreversibility of decision, or the theme which is represented by the poet in the poem The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. The last theme is a reflection on life. The poem shows how people look back at their past decision and think about how those choices changed their life. Similarly, the poet was thinking in his future that yeah, I have chosen this road and how these choices have changed their life. So this is the same thing that happens in humans also. We may choose some different option and we may think in the future that yeah, this has happened. So these choices have changed their life. So this is the reflection on life. So these are the themes in the poem The Road Not Taken. Now we will go with the literary devices that is used in the poem. So what do you mean by literary devices? Literary devices are special techniques used by the poets to write, make their writing more meaningful, expressive and beautiful. From in my term, I will say is that these are the ornaments for a writing. Like even when these will enhance these will enhance the beauty of the poem, and it will be very expressive, very meaningful, which may have the literal meaning, different meaning, all these things. So, in the poem Road Not Taken by Robert Frost uses several literary devices to convey the deeper meaning of life choices. First literary device is used as a symbolism. Symbolism is when an object, place or action represent a deeper meaning beyond its literal sense. So here in the poem, the two roads in the forest symbolize the different choices or the decisions in our life. For example, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. This is the first line in the first stanza. So here the explanation, the poet is not just talking about real roads in a forest. Instead, the road represents different paths or opportunities in life. Every person must choose one path just like the poet chose one road. And what is the importance of symbolism? It helps the readers understand that the poem is about life decisions and their consequences. Next, the literary device used is a very famous literary device, that is metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech that compares two things without using like or as. Okay. In the poem, a road is a metaphor for life's journey. I took the one less travelled by is an example from the poem. So, the road explanation of this is the road does not mean only a physical path in the forest. It represents a unique choice in life. The poet suggests that choosing a different path from others can lead to a meaningful life. The third literary device is the imagery. Imagery refers to descriptive language that creates mental pictures in the reader's mind. Examples that is given in the poem is yellow wood, grassy and wanted way, leaves no step had trodden back. These are the examples in the poem. Leaves no step had trodden back. Explanation. These descriptions help readers imagine the beautiful forest scene. We can picture a forest during autumn, yellow leaves on the ground, two paths covered with leaves. These are the imagery that makes the poem little bit vivid and realistic. Next is the personification. What do you mean by personification? Personification is when human qualities are given to non-human objects. For example, because it was grassy and wanted way. So this is the example which is given from the poem. The explanation. The road is described as wanted way, meaning it seems to want people to walk on it. But in reality, a road cannot want anything. This human quality makes the description more lively and interesting. Next is the alliteration. What do you mean by alliteration? Alliteration is the repetition of the same consonant sound at the beginning of nearby words. So here in the poem we are having many alliteration. First is a wanted way. So here both same consonant sounds are used. First four. This is also another example. The explanation. The repetition of the sound verb in wanted way creates a musical effect and makes a line more memorable. Alliteration makes the poem more rhythmic and pleasant to read. So it has a rhythmic pattern when we use these kinds of alliteration. Next is the irony. Irony occurs when the action